Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining our Grand National Racing Breaks preview. What better man to find us some winners than myself? And we're also joined by Ruby Walsh here. Ruby, how are you doing? Looking forward to the next couple of days?
Looking forward to hearing your tips, Bash. I'm sure they're
Oh,
going to be better than
blimey.
mine.
Well, let's jump straight into it on day one. We're going to go through the grade ones nice and quickly, and obviously we kick things off in the 145. The Manifesto Chase looks like a little bit of a rerunning of the Turners. Obviously, Grey Dawning came out on top of Ginny's Destiny. Is there any way you can see Ginny's Destiny return, sort of, changing things around with the form?
No, I probably don't. Maybe if Genie's Destiny pinged the last, he might have pushed Grey Dawning a bit further, but I honestly don't. They both had 5 starts over fences, and they both had incredibly good seasons. Obviously, it's Dan Skelton v Paul Nichols v Willie Mullins, and that could be the story of the weekend at Aintree. And Willie runs Ilete Tomp, who steps up in trip after running in the Arkle at Cheltenham. He didn't jump great at Cheltenham, Bash. And I think Ilete Tomp needs to jump better. Now, maybe going up in trip will allow him go a little bit slower. Maybe he can jump better, but he's no outsider here. Grey Dawning is a shade of odds on. He is the form horse and he is the selection, but it's a small chance he let the Tomp. He's only had the 4 runs, the other two had the 5. Maybe he might just be the fresher horse.
Sure, and obviously, if he is, stepping up in trip, a trip like a course like Aintree will suit that. It's not like a grueling finish like Cheltenham up the hill. So
Yeah, he did run over 2, 3.5 at Limerick behind Gaelic Warrior. No shame in being beaten by Gaelic Warrior at Limerick. And he won a 2-2 beginners at Thurles on his first start over fences. So going up in trip might bring about the improvement that's required for Ilete Tom to get his head back in front.
okay, perfect. There you go. So the first one could go to Ireland. Not a great start for the English, but we move on to the 220, which is the Boodles Anniversary Juvenile Hurdle. Sergino looked like a good thing. Some were saying in the Triumph. Obviously, a lot of talk around the Nicky Henderson camp. Are you going to wait? Would you recommend punters to sort of wait, see how he looks in the parade ring, or do you think
I think
behind?
I think as a whole you probably have to watch Sergino, and I think that
Okay,
probably makes this a very tricky race if you're betting. Yeah, I think you have to watch him. Well, I
okay,
will. Sorry, you don't have to. People are entitled to do whatever the hell they wish. But from my point of view, I think he's the best horse in the race. But could I or will I put my hand in my pocket? Nah, maybe at even money, not at 8 to 11. I think it's a race for watching and maybe looking for a little bit of value. I thought Cargeese ran her heart out in the Triumph Hurdle. Khalif de Burle looks like a horse for the future. Maybe give me 5, give that form a bit of a dent at Fairyhouse, but I just think the ground was too soft for Give Me 5 at Fairyhouse, so I'd forgive him that. And I don't think Nürburgring ran his race at all in the Triumph. I could see him running much better. But look, again, there's only 6 runners. It's not a massive each way race. And if Sergino is right, he's the best horse. Look, there's 20, 28, 27, no, 37, 21 races at entry.
hmm.
I'd sit out the Sergino race and let it tell me how Nicky Henderson's horses are.
Bill, Ruby, just talk to me about Cargeese quickly. Obviously, I don't know if I'm being harsh. She strikes me as a horse which will travel sweetly, but doesn't find an awful lot off the bridle. Is that harsh or is that fair?
Fraction horse, I'd say she quickened well enough and found enough to beat Salver in the Triumph. She just hadn't enough to repel Marsborough. And
Sure.
I'd say there's no shame in that. She's a bit keen. She's had 3 runs for Willie. She had a run in O'Toy last May. But I just for a 4-year-old, I'd be slightly worried that she ran her heart out in the Triumph. And can she
Okay.
back that up here? I'm not so sure. That would
Okay.
be my concern.
Interesting.
And it's the conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah,
Cheltenham
for
Day Tree.
sure.
Who's fresh? Who's tired?
Yeah, well, that leads us on perfectly to the 255, the William Hill Bowl Chase over 3 miles. And talking about horses coming here fresh and some not, we've got Jerry Colomb versus Shishkin. Obviously, Jerry Colomb ran a huge race, second in the Gold Cup, a grueling race, but he sort of had similar preparation last year and still won at Aintree. Would you be worried, or are you sort of
He did have a similar prep last year, but I guess last year, the way he was finishing in the RSA, you kind of felt like they hadn't gotten to the bottom of Jerry Colomb.
okay?
Whereas in the Gold Cup, it did look like he gave everything he had and a bit with it. So there is a slight question mark. I do think he's the best horse. I think the ground will suit him. I do think the track suits him. We know that from last year. But he's coming here off the back of a career best in the Gold Cup. And when horses produce a career best, there's always the question mark that can they produce it a second time or can they back it up? So there's a slight worry for that. Shishkin, again, Sergino will kind of point you as to where you should be going with Shishkin. But I'm not sure about real testing ground for him. I don't fancy Brave Man's Game on real testing ground either. Corbett's Cross, possibly. but just a mark of 157. Like, he's 16 pounds wrong with Shishkin. He's 17 or 13 pounds wrong with Jerry Calam. If Corbett's Cross is going to be a Grand National horse, he just has a mark that he doesn't want to be getting any higher from. So it's a worry for him. I found it again a tricky enough contest, but even though my brain is telling me that the race in the Gold Cup, the entry's coming too soon for Jerry Calam, I still just can't get away from him, Bash.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ruby. I think if he's 90% of the horse, I think he wins. But I know so many people that are all on Shishkin, so he'll bring the roof off the place if he does win. But let's move on to the Aintree hurdle. Bob Ollinger, is he a good thing here, Ruby?
No, I think Imperial Pass will beat him.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think Imperial Pass. Look, Darryl Jacob had to try something different in the Irish Champion Hurdle at the DRF, and he went for making the running on Imperial Pass. It completely backfired. He's not a front runner. He didn't want to go in front. He didn't jump in front. And I think with different tactics, he can turn that form with Bob Ollinger. Now you're looking through it, wondering, well, where is the actual front runner here? Maybe Beacon Edge might be the front runner. There's not another obvious front runner, but I think getting a lead would really suit Imperial Pass, and I can see him turning the form with Bob Ollinger. Some people would be saying Langer Dan. Personally, I wouldn't mind riding Imperial Pass or Bob Ollinger off 141 in the Coral Cup, and I'd imagine they'd come down the hill going a hell of a lot easier than Langer Dan did. So I think he's got a lot of improvement to do. I'd be with Imperial Pass. I think he'll beat Bob Ollinger.
Ooh, there you go. A big shout in Perry Pass beats Bob Ollinger. Ruby, any other fancies on day one? Just looking at the Willie Mullins runners, you've got Animix in the Fox Hunters.
Yeah, Animix has two ways of doing things. He's a bit in and out, 1p, 1p, 1p. Unfortunately for him, his last letter was a 1, or his last number is a 1, so it could be followed by a P. But a friend of mine tipped me up one of the big price bash, Captain Tommy, Mr. Toby McCain Richard rides for Freddie Timmis. He won at Ludlow on his last start. He was third to Shang Tang at Ludlow 2 starts before that, and ran here in January. Not he didn't run here, he ran at Alnwick in a point in January. Someone put up a case for him, said his form was okay. So at 33 to 1, I'll give him a mention.
There you go. Perfect. And I just have to ask you, I know you were sort of very keen on Saint Warth, at the festival. Do you think he could, get it
I
done?
wouldn't I wouldn't desert him. I think the 8 pound swing with unexpected parties certainly gives him a chance. He just needs to jump better. He headbutted the fourth last in the Grand
Yeah.
Annual. Bad fence to miss right on the climb in Cheltenham. You can't do that and get away with it and expect to be winning. So a better round of jumping definitely gives St. Roy a good chance. And in the bumper, Willie runs a filly called Baby Kate, who was out of Augusta Kate. I was actually second on her in this race many moons ago. And she's a decent filly, Baby Kate. But again, it's a race where outsiders have a good record in it. I'm not sure which outsider, but if you did hear something for one at a price, I wouldn't put you off backing it.
Interesting. Okie dokie. We will move swiftly on to day two in the 145, the Mildmay Novices Chase. We've got two festival winners coming in here. You've got the Kim Muir winner. I know the way you're thinking against the ultimate winner, sorry, Chanty Classico. Is there one which you sort of are siding with here, Ruby?
Um, it's a difficult one, isn't it? And again, look, Bash, we're recording this before declarations, just as a giveaway for people at home. But ah, which one did I think? I thought Chianti Classico was in a great position every step of the way in the ultimate.
Sure.
David Bass nailed his colours to the mast. He went for him over Kim's other runner that Harry Cobden rode with, fell early in the race, Trelawn. So, to be fair to Bass, he called it right. I know the way you're thinking looked like he just jumped in into Kim Euro, didn't he? He
Yeah.
won by 8 lengths. He could have won by 28 lengths. It's the two handicap races taking each other on. But I wouldn't be surprised if Oroco has improved a hell of a lot from
Yeah.
Cheltenham. And the
Yeah.
fact that he didn't go for 2.5 on Thursday would suggest to me he's going to the 3 miles on Friday. So I'm going to side with Oroco to turn the two handicappers over.
Good. My call exactly, Ruby. I really, really fancied him at Cheltenham, and money's is coming from. I think he's into 130. Again, this is before Dex. But yeah, I think he's the classiest horse there, and again, will come on leaps and bounds for his Cheltenham run. So the 255, the Grade One Novices Hurdle.
Before you get to that, Bashi, at 220, if Sergino and Shishkin run their races, that'd be Sergino winning, Shishkin getting involved. I think in the 220 in the handicap hurdle at Aintree on Friday, First Street makes appeal to me for Nicky Henderson. He hasn't run
Sure.
since running in the in the old Bula behind Lossiemouth, but he's back down to a mark of 143. And if the Henderson horses are showing form, I'd be siding with him in the 220.
Interesting. A strong one for First Street there. Okie dokie. And yeah, in the grade one at novices hurdle, got possibly, again, this is before Dex, the top three of the Supreme lining up here again. Slade Still, Mystical Power, and Firefox. But there's also support for the Fergal O'Brien mare, Dysart Enos, who did not show up at the festival. Is the one which you're going to put your flag on here?
I'd be slightly surprised if Slade Steele went. I could see him going to Punchestown because
Yeah.
he was the best horse in the race, and if he turns up again, he's unopposable in my mind. So you're going with the second and third, Mystical Power and Firefox. Mystical Power, I think, ran his race. He got a super ride from Mark Walsh. He arrived at the last to win and just couldn't hold off Slade Steele. But Firefox ran into plenty of trouble as they approached the last hurdle in the Supreme. He got caught on the inside of Teller the Name with Tully Hill coming backwards and Mr. Gift coming forward, and he lost quite a bit of ground. So I'm not certain that Mystical Power will hold that form with Firefox, and I think Firefox could be the call.
Interesting one. There you go. Firefox Ruby there. And in the Melling Chase, we've got a close three-way at the top of the market. We've got John Bond, Protectorate, and Pick Dorhey if they all do line up. Is there a certain one which sticks out for you?
Again, if the Henderson horses have started the bomb, and that's the beauty of the second day of a festival, you have all the form from the first day to go by.
Sure.
But if the Henderson horses are having way of the white flag, I'd be with John Bond. Now, obviously, if they've blown out and John Bond doesn't take part, I think Protectorate loves Aintree. He won a 3-mile chase here with Bridget Andrews many years ago. I thought he was really good in the Ryanair, and I think Protectorate will win again. But I don't think Protectorate would beat an unsung John Bond. So if the Henderson horses are in tip-top shape, I'm a John Bond fan.
What's your thoughts on Pick Dorhey here? Obviously impressive at Ascot and we're beating Long Press last time out, but not for you.
I think he was the only real 2.5 mile middle distance chaser in the race. I think Long Press wants every yard of 3, so does a Hoist Senior, and I just thought he used his pace to beat the other horses. I think he's been brilliantly placed by Paul Nicholls. He has completely maximised his horse's ability and talent. But I think when he runs into the likes of Protectorate and John Bond, he just falls a bit short.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one, Ruby. And on that, we will move to the 440, which is the Sefton Novices Hurdle.
No, we're going to the 405 first, Bash.
Oh, are we? Are we? Okay, forget that.
I really fancy one in the top of him. A lot of weight, 11 stone 10, but I love James de Burle for this race. I love his style of racing. Okay. I hear carried 11-11 in the Paddy Power at Leopardstown at Christmas, where he just appeared not to get home. He had 11 stone then, and a bit disappointing maybe in Leopardstown back at the Dublin Racing Festival, but I just think he could have been let roll. I think at 2.5, this track will suit him. I expect him to be up there on the pace all the way, attacking these fences, and I really like James de Burle.
You really like this horse, don't you? When I spoke to you before the DRF, you were all over James de Burle. He seems to be a horse you keep putting up. He's got to do the business for you, surely.
There's a big race in him, and he's always at that kind of price, so I'm going to side with him.
Okay, all right, perfect. James de Burle, and we'll double it up with the 33-1 you put up on day one as well.
Captain Tommy.
That's the one, Captain Tommy. That is the one. So in the Sefton, we could have the Albert Bartlett 1, 2, 3 showing up here. Stella Story, the Jukebox Man, Dancing City. Is there a sort of a way you can see this race panning out?
I think it could be a cracker renewal of the race, and you add in then the Martin Pipe winner, Better Days Ahead, if he was to run, and the Albert Bartlett blowout reading Tommy Wrong. I rode reading Tommy Wrong during the week. I cannot explain why he ran so poorly in the Albert Bartlett, but he felt to me to be in really good form. And he's around 7-1. That said, I looking at the markets, Bash, it looks to me like Better Days Ahead is going here rather than Stellar Story. And the Jukebox Man, I don't think he was unlucky in Cheltenham. I think Keelan Woods gave him a great ride. I'm tentatively each way going to put up reading Tommy Wrong because he cannot be as bad as he ran in Cheltenham.
And do you think Dancing City ran his race at Cheltenham? I really fancied him, but
I think that's just about him. I do, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Unfortunately.
Any others on days?
No, I've no fancy in that conditional jockeys hurdle race. Hopefully I might just leg it out of Aintree on Ladies' Day before the last.
Okie dokie. So we will move on to day 3, the big day, the Saturday, and we kick things off with the Mersey Novices Hurdle. And we've got the Mez Novice Hurdle second, Brighter Days Ahead. Most people said she was a good thing of the week. she bumped into one at Cheltenham. People are saying it's a harsh ride. Do you think that's a harsh ride, or was she just beaten by a better horse?
I'd say the way the race panned out didn't suit her.
Okay.
But I think the faster filly Golden Ace won. I can see why they're stepping her up in trip to 2.5. And yeah, she should take a bit of whacking, but I do think that Jimmy Desoy has been overlooked because Ballyburn was so impressive. And Jimmy Desoy finished 3.5 in front of Edith Atlantique, and they were a good bit in front of Mercury and Predator's Gold. So I think Jimmy Desoy at around about 8-1, especially now if you happen to be listening to this before declaration, you will be listening to this before declarations. Anti-post, I think Jimmy Desoy each way is a cracking bet.
Does Il Atlantique turn up here?
I don't think he's going to Liverpool.
Okay.
He was entering the 2 mile as well. I don't think he's going to Liverpool.
What about Billericay Dicky?
Billy Dickery's definitely going, but he would want it to dry up. I think he just want. I know he won on heavy at Punchestown, but beating Find a Fortune in a maiden hurdle is a hell of a long way from a Grade One race. And I wouldn't be surprised with the weather if he waited for Punch. I think he should wait for Punchestown. Billy Dickery.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a better horse on better ground. Asian Master could step up and trip here as well for Tom Costello. Who ran really well in the Supreme, and I wouldn't be surprised if soon 2.5 suited him better. I don't see this as a foregone conclusion for brighter days ahead.
Okay. And Caldwell Potter obviously sold for just under €750,000. If he turns up here, conditions will suit. Do you give him a big
I
chance?
think Bash. I think he's no. He's not running on Thursday. No, Friday. Maybe he's gone here. Thought I saw him
Yeah.
declared somewhere else.
Yeah, well, we'll know in about half an hour's time. But anyway, we'll move on to the Liverpool hurdle. Stayers hurdle winner Tehupu shows up here again. Flooring Porter ran a huge race to finish second at Cheltenham. Cider Burley obviously won this race before. Does Irish Point show up? It could be a cracking race.
Can't see Irish Point and Tupu turning up. So, and I did read that Tupu was the more favoured runner of the two Elliott, Rob Core runners. And I think I doubted him going to Cheltenham, but he really impressed me at Cheltenham, Tupu. And I think he could, as a 7-year-old, put himself into the position of being the dominant stayer for a couple of seasons. They all have to start somewhere. He's won the Stayers hurdle at 7. I think he'll back it up at 7, 8, and could even go as far as 9. So I think you could be heading into the era of Jupu as the dominant staying hurdler. So I'm not sure what price he'd be, Bash, but I think he could be a hell of a lot shorter this race 12 months time.
There you go. So get on to Hupu to win this, and next year's Stayers hurdle, and the year after that, and the year after that. Before we touch on the Grand National, let's just look at the 5 o'clock. The novices chase, the 2 mile. We've got Founder 50, ran a huge race, sort of the only horse that could sort of virtually go with Gaelic Warrior in the Arkle. Eat Along as well was impressive for the Skeltons, but Founder 50, would you be siding with him?
Definitely has his chance, although I do think the track will really suit Matata, who
Okay.
plays along in front of him in the
Yeah.
Arkle. And now Matata has 8 lengths to find with Founder 50, but Matata drove 20 minutes home to Nigel Twiston Davis's Founder 50, had to go back to Ireland and then go back to Aintree. I'm just hoping that might swing the 8 lengths, but I do think the track would really suit Matata's style of running. So I'd be slightly with Matata at the odds of 10-1 now, anti-post each way.
Interesting. Okie dokie. So let's move on to the big one. Ruby, you're obviously one of a very few people that can say they won a national, but also won multiple nationals. Which one, I know it's harsh to say, which one sticks out in your mind more when you say you won the national?
Look, your Papillon was an incredible day, Bash, to ride the winner of the Grand National trained by my father. I was only 20. It was just an incredible experience, and it was surreal, something I never thought would happen. And yeah, Hedge Hunter was brilliant, and to do it ride the winner of the national for Willie is a huge achievement. But just the whole family connection with Papillon made it that bit different.
And am I right in thinking, was that your first try at the national as well?
Yeah, I'd ridden in the Fox
Wow.
Hunters, but my first ride in the national. And look, it was fairy tale stuff, Bash. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, if you could live 3 days of your life again, I'd take those 3 days, that Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Wow, there you go. Fantastic. And obviously some lucky jockey is going to be the winner again this year. Do you have any sort of standout fancies or any sort of angles into the race you think could be
There's
valuable?
loads of angles. Look, we have a few minutes, so we start at the top. Conflated, I think, probably has too much weight, and you could see him maybe, if he's lucky, running into sort of 7th, 8th. But I think with the weight, it's going to be hard for him. Noble Yates ran well last year when he was 4th, having won it in 22. He again, you could see him plugging on to be placed. Nasalam will love the conditions and love the ground, but you just wonder, is that penalty of £16 from the Welsh national going to hinder him? Coco
Yeah.
Beach went too fast in last year's race. He's been in really good form this year, a good winner of the Tri-Town. He was bombed around a bank race in Punchestown in his last start, but I wonder at 161, is he quite good enough? Capitano was number 5. He had a poor prep last year, only had the one run coming here. He's had a much better preparation coming this year. Keith Donoghue rides him, and I could see him running a big race. Aya Maximus, form wise, is the form horse. People would say Corrick Rambler, but I'd say if you watch the Bobby Joe and watch what Aya Maximus did to Vanillier that day, it absolutely blew him out of the park. But my one fear for Aya Maximus is his best form of late have been in small fields. He did win the Irish Grand National. That was off a £10 lower mark, and he made hard work of that. He's looked a better horse in smaller fields. If Paul Townend can get him jumping, he has to have a big chance. Again, jump quickly. He's quite safe. That's his problem. It's not that he's a bad jumper. He's just too safe. He needs to be
Okay.
faster, slicker. Manila Indo, he's not the horse that won the Gold Cup. He's on the way down, and he could run well, but that's all. Corrick Rambler, I thought when he won last year, you could see him winning a second Grand National easily the way he won. But the last 100 yards in Cheltenham in the Gold Cup, I thought he looked empty. And I just wonder, will that race have left its mark on him? I know he was ready to come home and run well, but he gave everything he had. And I wonder, did he get to the bottom of the well with Corrick Rambler in the Gold Cup? Janadil won't stay. Statler wants better ground. I'm a firm believer in that you need mileage in the tank to win a Grand National. A bit like people running marathons. I don't think Mile Mission's had enough runs this year. I think Delta Works a good each way poke with 25-1. Foxy Jacks is 66s. Could see him running really well, actually. Foxy Jacks, he's fits a flea, jumps, he gallops. Gavin Bruder gets on really well with him. Galvin wants better ground. Farouk Delaine doesn't have chase form in the last 25 months. That's worth a light. Eldorado Allen is in here because of his fourth in the Corrie Gold Cup, but not sure that's good enough. Ain't That a Shame didn't stay last year. Vanillier has a mountain to climb with Aya Maximus to turn the Bobby Joe form around at pretty much the same weights. Mr. Incredible is the same as Mile Mission, only Mr. Incredible only has one start this year, and I wonder will fitness catch him out. Run Wild Fred seems to be on the decline. Late Night Possibly a brilliant story. Gina Andrews was really good at Cheltenham in December when it beat Frankie de Burle. Ran well behind Foxy Jacks there in November and ran okay at Haydock in the national trial. So Late Night Pass, jump, stay and keep galloping. Manila Crooner doesn't seem to be the horse he once was. Adamantly Chosen has to back up his run at Down Royal. Might not, wouldn't be for me. Mac Totty, the trip would be a worry. Chemical Energy, Mahler Mission, Mr. Incredible, only one run for Chemical Energy. I think that's a drawback. Limerick Lace, really interesting that Mark Walsh decided to ride her. That's a big boost of confidence for her. Beat Dinah Blue at Cheltenham, a brilliant run in the Tri-Town behind Coco Beach. She seems to be improving. She's only a 7-year-old, and you'd have to take Mark Walsh riding her as a huge plus. Meeting of the Waters is a novice who seems to be going the right direction, but do you take Mark Walsh not riding him as a negative? You probably have to. That'd be my. He could have picked either or. He's gone for Limerick Lace over Meeting of the Waters, so there would be a slight concern there. I don't think the Goffer stays. Roy Maj, 40-1, fourth last year, jumps, seventh last year, jumps, stays, gallops, loves heavy ground. He's a 12-year-old, but he's going to keep going. Glenn Gooley, brilliant run in the Tyes days, but really poor at Cheltenham, has to overcome that. I think Galia Lidito will think she is loose with 10-6 on her back. She carried 11-12 at Warwick when she chased home My Silver Lining in the Warwick Classic chase. And I think 10-6 is a big boost to her. And I think being an 8-year-old is a big plus. Panda Boy is a great chance as well, although did look like he was going to get involved in last year's Irish National and didn't have the legs of Aya Maximus from the back of the second last. Eclat de Rire has to bounce back to his best. Chambard has to have a chance, beat Coco Beach here in the Beecher chase. So for Venetia, jumps and stays again, a tipping a 12-year-old. Kitty's light, he was slight worry about the ground if he gets in. And Melina Girl is the last one I can see getting in. And again, I think the weight's going to be huge for her. She had a massive weight in her back at Warwick as well. And I think with 10-5, she has some sort of a chance too, Bash.
So after all of that, which is the one you're coming down on?
I'm giving Capanano a squeak. I'm giving Galia Leto a squeak. I'm giving Panda Boy his chance and Delta Work.
Delta Work. Okay, there you go. That is the Grand National. And whilst we've got you on here, Ruby, obviously some people who might be following us on all of our socials would have seen your lovely swinging technique over in Dubai. Do you have a fancy for the Masters that you could put up?
Try and replicate that. Do I have a fast fancy for the Masters? No, I'm in the middle of watching Full Swing episode 2 at the
Okay.
moment. And if Wyndham Clark is in the right place, he'll have to have a squeak. But that said, I'd love to see Ricky Fowler win it.
Okay. There you go. Ricky Fowler for Ruby. Ruby, thank you very much. I hope you have the best 3 days. Let's hope all the horses come home safe and sound. I hope all of you that are watching, hopefully we'll see you at the course. Have a fantastic day. Thank you again for watching with Racing Breaks and booking with Racing Breaks. And we'll see you very soon.